During World War II, the McDonnell Aircraft Company at Lambert Field built gliders that were used to drop troops into France. Well, they had a demonstration in front of 3,000 people, and there were 5 of us photographers in the middle of the field, and this tow plane pulled off the field towing a glider behind it. And they circled around, and I was following the view through my camera finder, and all of a sudden the tow came loose from the tow plane attached to the glider, and it started to swirl around and fall. And then I had to decide, when do I want to make the picture? So I decided to follow it down. Then I clicked the shutter. But it was the one and only shot. And that picture ran all over the world, Life magazine, and everybody else. I would approach Missouri subjects and Missouri scenes looking through a telephoto lens. My feeling that the longer away I stood from the subject, the more interesting perspective that the structure in the picture, our structures, our people, our ball games would appeal, because nobody else was doing it. So I was a long lens freak. I built my own telephoto lenses, which gave me perspectives that no one around the United States was using. And that's how I got deeply involved, especially in space photography. Need a long lens. That's probably my most famous baseball picture that I made in St. Petersburg, Florida. Mickey Mantle, Stan Musial, and Joe DiMaggio. And I got this baseball. I got the little boy, who was a Norman Rockwell designed youngster. My biggest mistake, they all signed this ball, and I let the boy keep the ball. Nobody's ever been able to identify the boy. The picture's been on national television asking the question, who is this kid? I suppose mystery sometime is the best part of a photograph.
I wasn't good on long-term projects. I'm one of these short-term guys. I want to get out there and get it, and get home, develop the film, get it in the paper. I want to see the paper the next day and see immediate gratification. Boy, that's a good picture. A fellow broke jail and took a hostage. I simply took my billfold out of my back pocket. I don't know why I did this. Put my Nikon F down on this billfold and popped off the prism so that I could get a real low view and look in there. And I laid that camera down on the ground and shot the picture. Well, that picture would have been nothing if I'd shot it from, up higher. But those things just happen. And you work so fast, you don't have time to think it out. It goes or it doesn't. I remember developing the film when I got back and looking at those few frames I had, thinking, man, I'm glad that came out.
Dad bought the Washington, Missouri in 1937. He recognized that to have a strong newspaper, we needed photographs. And back in those days, your photos had to go to an engraving plant, and we sent them either to Columbia or to St. Louis, and that took 2, 3, 4 days, and very often they were not timely photos anymore by the time you wanted to print them. So that's when he put in his own darkroom in the basement of our house and started developing his film and making his prints, and then sending them off to an engraver. Well, before long, a year or two after that, he decided to put in an engraving plant in our newspaper office, and so he put that in, and I think that was the first engraving plant that was put in a weekly newspaper in the state of Missouri. He was a world traveler. He loved to do stories, particularly on people. He was always very interested in people. He was in the jungles of South America. He was in places like New Guinea. He took that 5,000-mile train trip into Siberia by himself. And I've never heard of anybody else doing this. He actually carried with him a portable darkroom. He had it in a small case and also carried a typewriter. And so he would send stories back to us by the mail. The mail was much better in those days. We still feel very, very strongly about photojournalism. We, in our Wednesday paper, averages 84 pages broadsheet, and there are some weeks we've run over 100 local photographs. So we put a great emphasis on photos today.
I think the Photojournalism Hall of Fame is a wonderful opportunity to recognize people whose careers have been devoted toward visual storytelling, innovators in terms of technology, in terms of storytelling techniques, educators, and it also recognizes people who have really contributed to their community by explaining the community to itself, whether it's in a small town or in a large city. So I think whenever we have the opportunity to recognize people who have done important work, it's valuable both to them individually but also collectively to us as society. And I think it also gives an opportunity to extend their work to another audience, a wider audience.